Welcome to the 1905 podcast. Joe and I have been going to Stamford Bridge for over 30 years. For the past 3 years, we've been exchanging voice notes on everything from the highs in Porto to the lows of Potter. Each week, this podcast will take you inside our unfiltered thoughts on all things Chelsea, sharing our view from Gate 13 of the Matthew Harding stand. Let's hit the notes. Right, we're here for a live episode of the 1905 podcast, the end of season review, I guess we could call it. And I'm here with Joe. And Joe, the last time we did this live, we were incredibly nervous ahead of 2 final cup finals of the season. We won them both.
We did it, mate. We did it. You have little faith.
I know. I had nothing to worry about. But yeah, it's, I don't know, I feel, it just all feels really positive, doesn't it, at the moment? Like, Twitter, which normally I try not to go on too much because it's a cesspit of negativity. I'm sort of addicted to all the positivity at the moment. Transfer rumours, every day, all excitement. It just feels great. And today we found out that not only is Delap taking number 9, but Cole Palmer is taking number 10. And that is a very tempting shirt to buy, isn't it, I have to say?
It's just all positive, isn't it? You know, you can't wait to pick up a paper, look on Twitter, look on Sky Sports. I'm sitting there now talking to you with a big smile on my face. It is just, I think had it gone the other way, it would have felt really bad. Yeah, and you would have felt that the knives would have been out on Maresca, and our season would have been a disaster and a write-off. Literally, that one performance against Nottingham Forest has meant a lot to us, doesn't it?
It really has. It really has. So today's pod, we're going to do our awards of the season. What Joe and I have done ahead of the call is we both sent each other our kind of nominations for these, and we have a top 3 in 6 categories. We're going to start with the best performance of the season, and number 3, winding the clock way back to the second game of the season, is Wolves away.
It was 6-2. It felt like it was going to be 6-6 at one point. I remember they had a lot of chances, Wolves, in that game, but we just managed to keep them at bay. Do you remember when Sanchez flapped it across? We were winning 3-2, and it would have made it 3-3, but it got ruled out of a VAR. And again, you and I were just so panicky. And then after that, the rest is history. We got goal after goal after goal. But yeah, what a fantastic game it was. Really enjoyed that one.
It was brilliant, wasn't it? Yeah, we went in. It was 2-2 at half time, looking back, actually. And then we had that crazy Noni Madueke hat-trick in 14 minutes, and then a João Felix goal at the end, which kind of wrapped it up. But it felt great, didn't it? Because it had been so negative at that point in the season. Terrible. We had a terrible pre-season. Man City at home had been a bit flat. I think we then lost the second leg of the Conference League playoff. Do you remember, away? And it was all a bit like, oh, this is a bit pants. And then suddenly positivity, and we actually went on a pretty good run after that. So that was our pick for number 3. I'll let you speak to our pick for number 2, because it was the one that you really wanted to put forward, which was Forest away, which you mentioned earlier at the end of the season.
Yeah, I know the game was poor. I don't think we played very well in terms of attacking output, but I thought a defensive display was amazing, considering what was at stake. And this was a game I thought that Chelsea, maybe a year ago, even 3 months ago, would have flopped comfortably. And they showed real heart, real desire. You could see everybody wanted to do it. And I know they had the Champions League at stake. Sorry, can you hear the rain? My word, it is bashing down here. Yeah, there's a lot at stake on that day. And I just felt as though it was a really professional, grown-up performance. And I think the team had gone full circle. They had a really good start to the season. We know we had that dodgy sort of middle third. And then to come back with a really adult, grown-up display against Forest, which got us the Champions League. It's got the players their pay rise, and it's allowed us to do lots of things in the transfer market already this season. It was just a really important game. I think it was massive for the club.
No, great. It was brilliant. Still buzzing a little bit. And then our top pick for the season, I think a lot of people kind of regard this as maybe our most complete performance of the season at Chelsea, is Chelsea 3, Aston Villa 0 on the 1st of December. And it was looking back, we were brilliant that day. Nicholas Jackson, Enzo Fernandez and Cole Palmer scored. That was the one where Cole Palmer, do you remember, cut in on his left with about 10 minutes to go and just whipped a ball in the top corner. The keeper didn't even move. Unbelievable. It was that moment in the season where he just couldn't miss. Everything he touched turned to gold. I think we went probably second in the league that day, and it just felt like we were absolutely electric. And that spell, when you listen back to the podcast, it was like, oh, we're just brilliant, aren't we? We're just a really good side. We were just buzzing every week at that point.
Little did we know what was around the corner.
What was around the corner? Which, yeah, brings us perfectly on, actually. So our next category is worst performance of the season. And number 3 on our list is a game on the 30th of December, so just 29 days after our best performance. Ipswich Town 2, Chelsea 0. Liam Delap, he ran us ragged, didn't he, that day?
Yeah, it was the first time I had seen him play before, but when you see him in a game against your team, it matters a lot more, doesn't it? And I was getting visibly agitated by the fact that we couldn't get hold of him. He was running past players, pushing people away. You know, he gave everybody some stick. And like we said earlier on, before we came on here, I hadn't realised he's a bully. He just pushes people around all the time. And I thought it was a one-off thing against Chelsea. I think he did it to Levi Colwill on the day. He just launches him on the floor. And the game itself was actually not bad. We started okay in the first, 15, 25 minutes. We could have scored plenty of goals. Then they get the penalty. And it changed everything for us. We just couldn't get going after that. And the second half was as bad a performance as I've seen this season from Chelsea. It was awful. We didn't have any idea. We completely ran out of steam. And it was just a really hard watch. And when you know everybody's been there and beaten them, you're just thinking to yourself, oh no, where's this run of games going? And again, it was in that bad run, wasn't it? When we lost at Fulham on Boxing Day, and it didn't get better for a long, long time. So that for me is definitely up there, purely for the second half performance on its own.
Yeah. Turn it into a positive. He was brilliant that day because he made the second goal, didn't he, as well? And to be fair, our back four that day, looking at it now, was Cucurella, Colwill, Tosin and Disasi. So it was not like it's the big boys in terms of physicality at least. But he was running them ragged. And it was, we'll take a little bit of that in the Chelsea shirt going forward, won't we? I think he could be we talked a little bit about him last time, but he could be a very popular Chelsea player with the fans, I think.
I think it got all very excited. People in WhatsApp groups and stuff as well that I've been in, different ones, and I think everybody's very excited to see him play.
So there you go. We turned a negative into positive. Number 2 on our list for bad performances. 16th of March, Arsenal 1, Chelsea 0. Chelsea just did not turn up, did we, that day? It was so flat. And having come off the back of a decent little run of games, it was around at that point in the season where at that point you really couldn't see the team that we almost became in the next 2 months, which was this real passion, hungry team and desperate to get points from any game they could. That was really flat, wasn't it, that day?
It was 2 things that stood out for me. The first thing was, do you remember when we had we played Man City away? I think it was under Antonio Conte, and we went there and we lost 1-0. Yeah. We were happy to keep the ball in our own half. We didn't even try to get an equaliser. Felt very much to me like that. Maresca came out. The second thing is Maresca came out after the game and said we created loads of chances, and that's the game. Also, Arteta said that Chelsea were one of the best attacking teams in the league, and I think we'd had we barely had a goal scored in all that time. But from a Fulham game, in that period of maybe 8-9 games, we've been awful, and we looked like we just didn't want to equalise. We were happy to lose 1-0. I think I said on the podcast note to you on the game, you lose 1-0 regardless. If you lose 4-0 or 1-0, you still lose. You don't get anything for it. I suppose you could argue you didn't get beat 4 or 5 and your goal difference doesn't go down. At the time, we weren't concerning ourselves with goal difference. And I just felt as though Chelsea went to Arsenal and we got our tummy tickled and they patted us on the head and they said, thanks for coming and off you go. And it really irritated me that we didn't try that game.
That's the worst, isn't it? It's when you don't have a proper go. And I remember late on in that game that even the subs that we made, I think we brought on defenders. It was like, are we not going to have a proper go? It was really, really flat and only really say bettered, but worsened by the performance in this game. 8 shots, 0 shots on target, 60% possession, 14th of Feb 2025, Brighton 3, Chelsea 0, and maybe the most angry I have seen Joe Kevin about a Chelsea performance for quite some time.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about it too much because it brings back, bad memories. I hate to say it, but yeah, remind me. I don't think before the FA Cup game or afterwards. I think it might have been afterwards. Sort of played them back to back, if memory serves.
Yeah.
And oh my goodness me, was so bad. In some way, looking back, and this is why this is good to reflect. Looking back, I think he changed some things that day. I think the defence from that point onwards was much more solid. So whatever he was trying to do or get through to the players wasn't working. And again, our attacking display was poor too. So it wasn't like we were creating loads of chances. We were poor at the back. It was nothing was working. Couldn't score a goal. Conceding goals, for fun. And I suppose, in hindsight, it might have been a good thing not to lose, obviously.
I think it was. No, I think you're right there. I think it. Yeah, and I think it. You look back. I'm looking at the stats right now. We 735 passes to Brighton's 320, and it was kind of the worst of Maresca ball because it was all of that without a single shot on target and no threat. Like, it wasn't even. We had nothing, and you're like, it was draining you to watch, but it definitely did change after that point. So yeah, again, we'll turn that one into a positive. Right, we'll do moment of the season, and number 3. I'll throw this to you, Joe, because it was your shout. Reggie Walsh's debut.
Yeah, it's a moment for me. It hasn't always got to be goals or a result. I think this was a really important thing for the club, and I know the Conference League was panned by lots of people, some Chelsea fans too. I may have, at the start been a little bit negative towards it because I think I couldn't get my head around us playing this competition. But the fact that you've got a 16-year-old boy, 16 years old, played a full game. I'm not talking about his game where he come on for a minute and should have nearly scored with his first touch. That was impressive. But the fact that he played against a fully established men's team in a European competition at 16 and he didn't look out of place. He actually played very, very well in the first half. Maybe dropped off a little bit in the second half, but we didn't need to score any more goals. So it was like, okay, game's over, job done. I just thought was an incredible achievement. And I look back and think to my own children, if you had a 16-year-old boy play for Chelsea on debut against a men's team, I don't care if it's in the League Cup, league or whatever, or even a friendly in America, what an achievement that is. And Maresca trusted him enough to do it, and fair play to him.
Well, your son is a very good player, Joe, so who knows? Maybe 16 or 17, but we'll watch this space. No pressure. Yeah, it was amazing. Right, I picked number 2, so I should talk about this one. So it was Cole Palmer's penalty against Liverpool, and a couple of reasons I wanted to pick this one out. One is it basically confirmed the victory in what was not only a really important win for Chelsea in the context of the season, but to finally beat a proper top 4 team in Liverpool, which it didn't feel like we'd done for so long. It wasn't the strongest Liverpool side we know, but it was a real key moment, and it felt like it was a moment of the season. Is that it's a moment of celebration, and that was the one where Rob Sanchez ran all the way down the end of the pitch as well, didn't he, to celebrate?
Yes,
in front of the Matthew Harden stand. So it was an amazing moment. I remember literally, jumping around like a madman when that went in, and obviously also for Cole Palmer, it felt incredibly important because he hadn't scored in quite a while, and we were worried, but we didn't have to wait too worried about him, did we? And then I think number 1 moment of the season, we both picked this. It's the obvious moment. Everyone's been talking about it, but it was Pedro Neto, that last minute goal just a few minutes after Torrey George had scored at Fulham, and it was the moment of the season, wasn't it, in terms of key Chelsea moments of real recent time.
I'll be honest, I didn't see it coming either. I know we equalised, but I think we all felt that was a must-win game, and it was the passing move. So that out from the back, left, right, centre, back up the right-hand side, Fernandes and Caicedo linking up, and the ball into Neto. You got a bit of everything there. You got playing out the back, good football, good movement, a class pass into Neto, and the swivel and hit in one go was just brilliant. And then you got the celebration. Look what it meant to them. They knew. I think they all knew that day it was a must-win game, and there was only about, well, I think in normal time it might have been a minute to go, but we played 6-7 minutes of added time. But to score in the 90th minute, there's no better way to win a football game, in my opinion. It's the best way to do it. It's heart, heart wrenching for us, for the fans, but when it goes right for you, it's the best feeling in the world. I think it's definitely for us is the best moment of the season.
We obviously talked about this at the time, but looking back now and that we know the way the season finished, can't predict the future. We don't know what will happen with Maresca and whether he'll work out long time at Chelsea or not, long term. But that game at half time, do you remember he had to walk in front of the Chelsea fans as you do at Fulham, and he was getting effing and blinded at, like he was getting a lot of abuse at half time because Chelsea were 1-0 down and were fairly poor. And then obviously that happens at the end of the game. He doesn't go and celebrate with the fans at that point. But by the end of the season at the Conference League final, he is, getting put in front of the fans. And, if things move positively as in next season, which we obviously hope they do with Maresca, you will look back at that and it'll be such a key moment, won't it, in his story, I think. So, yeah, just huge.
I think it's well, right. People don't realise, I was going to say, Chris, if you haven't been to Craven Cottage, the away end is right by the tunnel, and obviously when you win a game of football, great as an away manager. But if you've got to go off, you say he was getting dog's abuse, and it was a cauldron, wasn't it, for Chelsea fans to put all their hate on him. So very, very impressed that he managed to kind of keep his chin up and keep us going.
Right, player of the season. I'll do this I'm going to change the order because it's a little bit more obvious here. So number 1, Caicedo. We've gone for him. The fans went for him. I did vote for him as well in the fans player of the year. I think most of the country rates him as a player now, apart from Paul Scholes. Did you see Paul Scholes' comments?
He doesn't know what he does on the football field.
He would have hated Kante, wouldn't he? But yeah, just unbelievable interesting point. Well, I'll make the point actually when we come to number 3. But okay, number 2, again, fairly unanimous. I think Marc Cucurella was our number 2 player of the season. And then number 3, I'm going to throw this back to you. So Cucurella, we've talked about so many times on the pod, is, his turnaround in his time at Chelsea is crazy. He's been here 3 years now, actually, which when I thought about it, it feels quite long. But yeah, just brilliant. And number 3 that you put forward, and I was happy to accept, was Enzo Fernandez, who a couple of months into the season I was quite critical of, but he really turned it around, didn't he?
Yeah, I think he gets a bad rap, and I think people were very quick to jump on him and slag him off because of, he wasn't living up to the £107 million price tag. And I know it's really hard when you get bought for that amount of money and you come in, you're expected to change things overnight. If I'm honest, I think he looks a little bit unfit in the first season. Maybe slightly overweight. And I don't mean obviously in a bad way, but just even a few pounds can make a difference in the Premier League. I think he's said himself that getting around the field in the Premier League was a lot different to where he was playing in Benfica on a regular basis. But he came away with 8 goals, 14 assists in all competitions. In my opinion, he had that real passion, and you could tell there were moments. Man City away, when Rob Sanchez had that howler mistake, the camera pans straight to Enzo, and he's not in tears, but you can see he's visibly pissed off. And I think Sanchez had made a couple of mistakes at this time, or goalkeepers in general had made some mistakes. And I felt as though he was like going, we're doing all this hard work, we're running around like nutters, and we're just giving goals away for free. And the other one was Aston Villa away, where we lost 3-2 and Jorgensen dropped one over the goal line in the last minute. And we lost 3-2 there. And he actually was in tears. He was clapping the fans at the end and he was in tears. And that's not to say that, okay, why does that make him a player of the season candidate? It wasn't just that, but that to me showed passion. It showed that he cared. I think all the things that we've been crying out for is someone to wear that blue shirt actually means something. We've had so many players turn up, clip their paycheck and piss off. Obviously, his all-round play, the fact that he arrived late into the box, he had that kind of Lampard-esque sort of neck. The first time I saw it, I think there was talk of him needing to score more goals. And the very next game was Leicester away. And forgive me, I can't remember who crossed the ball, but he got put through and he knocked one in, I think with his head against Leicester away. We won that game 2-1. And then obviously you saw it right at the very end. We're desperate, not going anywhere fast in that final in the Conference League. okay, fantastic ball from Palmer. I mean, it really is put on a plate for it, but that's not an easy header. Running forward like and to guide it into the near corner, as it were, low, brilliant. I mean, absolutely superb. I just felt as though his whole game changed. Obviously, Caicedo being fully fit the whole season helped him. He didn't have to move back into the centre. He sort of played a bit further forward. Lavia coming into his own towards the end of the season as well meant that he got a little bit more game time further forward. How we go about the midfield next season, we're not going to get into that tonight. He's got some, Maresa's got some real serious problems to who to play at the middle of the park because so stacked with talent, particularly with Santos coming back and those sorts of players. So, yeah, I think Enzo deservedly deserves to be in this list. And you could say someone like Cole Palmer, and they had such a massive drop off in not necessarily performance, goals and assists, just completely went away. Nicola Jackson as well. But I thought Enzo kept us in games at times, and I think just not just for the goal in the Conference League, but I think that really got us going. It meant us put a second one really quickly, and the game turned around in a matter of moments. So yeah, I think Enzo fully deserves his pick at number 3.
I have to say, he's turned me around on him because around, I guess, October time, maybe November, I was like, I'm not sure I'm seeing enough from him in that role. And he's end product, like he said, has been brilliant. I saw some stats around these kind of where he ranks in like, not everyone loves these stats about top percentile, but they were comparing him to like Pedri at Barcelona, and he's like, he beats him on most things. Fernandes is like so high on everything in terms of progressive passes, touches of the ball, passes forward, all the stuff you'd want really from him. And the passion part, again, we talked before so many times about what you want from a Chelsea squad and what you want from players. That moment when he does score in that final, his celebration with Reece James, when they basically headbutt each other in the corner, it is amazing. Like it's what you want to see from your captain and vice captain, isn't it? It's like, and they're they're the intangibles, I think. And with someone like Caicedo, if I'm a betting man, I think I could see him at Chelsea in 5 years' time. I think with Enzo Fernandez, I probably not. He's often linked to Real Madrid, and I could see that, but I don't think, back in October time, like we wouldn't get 70 million from him now. I think now, if we ever did sell him, we get 100 million. I think it's almost back to that point where you get your money back and you leave on good terms. Not that I'm trying to sell him, don't get me wrong, but I think he's really turned it around. And the thing I was going to mention earlier was about maybe 18 months ago, a year ago, the thing I kept saying was that this Chelsea project, if you want to call it that, of this huge amount of investment, I said like Caicedo and Enzo Fernandez, the success of those two, I think will define quite a lot of what it looks like, because you've outlaid 250 odd million nearly on two midfielders. If they flop, which about a year ago you were kind of thinking they might, then it's going to be a problem for us. But now you're like, nah, like Caicedo certainly is probably worth more than we paid for him, which is crazy to say. And Enzo, you get the money back. So yeah, really exciting.
Wouldn't give you either, would he?
Unbelievable. Right. Turn it the other way around. So most disappointing players of the season. Number 3, a man that I think were quite positive about when we signed him and said that you thought he'd come in and pretty quickly be number 1, is Jorgensen. So what do you think's gone wrong there?
Do you know what? I don't actually think he had as bad a season as people have made out. I think there's been a lot of people have jumped on him very quickly and said how poor he was and he cost us this. And I think he was okay. I think the trouble was Sanchez, when he had his bad period, that was his time to come in and shine, and he didn't. When he was coming in for the odd game, i.e. Europe, and playing those kind of dead rubber games, he didn't have a lot to do. What he did have to do was fairly basic. So you're hoping that a Premier League match, for example, he had a couple in the middle when Sanchez had a bad spell. You thought he would come and step up and be that guy, and he didn't. And he's still young. I mean, personally, I still wouldn't sell him. I think you've got a chance there. He's young. They're all young, I know, but I think Sanchez is the one you're going to sell if you're going to sell anybody. But I think Jorgensen, he didn't make any jump, any step. There was a big chance for him to turn this into Chelsea's number 1 on a regular basis, looking at other goalkeepers like Magnon this week, etc. He could have really stamped a claim for himself, but I think he just took a step backwards, and yeah, it's a shame for him because I think he's probably better than we've seen. He was just okay, wasn't he? And no more than that. So I think he probably deserves to be on the list just for that reason, that he didn't take his chance.
Yeah, no, well said. Well said. And yeah, I'm with you. I don't think he's as bad as people want to make out, but we just haven't seen that quality yet that you'd want to bank on him. But personally, as a number 2, I think he's fine. Personally.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Number 2, disappointing player. And this one actually feels to me a little bit harsh because we don't know yet, but it may well not be his fault. But is Mykhailo Mudryk, who had just started to show a few signs, particularly in the Conference League, obviously, but he looked like he had a bit of confidence back, didn't he? And was playing just like giving us something. We thought he could start to squeeze into the A team, as it was called back at that point. And then obviously we haven't seen him for a long time now, and his number 10 shirt has now been handed over to Palmer, which is never a good sign for what's going to happen next.
No, that was worrying.
What made you want him up? Yeah, it doesn't look good. What? I mean, is there anything else you want to add on that in terms of why it's disappointing?
I suppose, like you say, he was doing okay in the Conference League. I think in the Premier League still, he would show flourishes for maybe the odd player. I remember the Nottingham Forest game at home. He made that amazing dribble from his own box, basically, to the other box. He crosses it from Kunku, managed to head it straight to the goalkeeper. Like, those moments for him would have been massive. Hadn't Kunku put that in, you'd have been YouTube. He loves a bit of YouTube, that boy. That would have been on TikTok and God knows what else. I think his confidence would have risen. And again, he can clearly see the confident player. The moment he scores a goal, he has a little spell where he's like all over the place and doing everything. And then the moment he does wrong, he's on his knees again. And I just think we paid 60 million. That's rising to about 80 or 90 if he were to hit all those targets, which he's clearly not going to do at Chelsea now, I don't think. I think he's been really, and again, he's not determining his transfer fee, by the way. But I think the fact you spend £60 million on a player, and what we saw against Liverpool on his debut that year, we were so excited. What we got, this boy's amazing. He's got nowhere near that, not even like remotely close to that performance. And I just think that he's probably sadly going to drift away. He'll play football again somewhere. Whatever has happened. But he can't be more than anything than a disappointment for me. He's not played enough games. He's had no input in the back half of the season when we could have done with him, actually. So yeah, and the fact he's lost his shirt now just screams that's a big problem there for me. I think he's probably done.
Yeah, it's a shame. It's quite an interesting example, I think, of one of the things I think that this ownership wanted to do with the model is obviously replicate what Brighton have done over the years and other clubs like that. If you get a player in a little bit earlier in their potential, and you wanted to get Caicedo before Brighton get him, and then you save yourself 100 million basically. With Mudryk, it wasn't so much that you were getting him at a good fee, but you were thinking, let's get him in early. But maybe it's also a good example where he needed a Brighton move before a top 6 club move, if you know what I mean. If he goes, I think there's a player there, but I think he looks a very different player if he's at Forest or if he's at Brighton or at Palace or something, where there isn't this just isn't the pressure that you get playing for Chelsea. They get a bit more space as well, those teams, to go and play. There's time. He might have gone and actually really done well, but I think going straight from almost nowhere to Chelsea overnight and be given the number 10 shirt and being like, he's the main man, it's too much. I've always said he's probably done one of the best debuts, half-an-hour cameos at Anfield that I've seen in a Chelsea shirt. Like, genuinely, it was unbelievable, wasn't it? I don't think I've been more excited about a signing since Hazard. That was how good he was. But we've just only ever seen it in 30-second flashes since. It's a shame.
Well, there's a small club in London, a red club in London, that could have signed him. So he could have gone there first. Then comes a big club in Chelsea in blue. That's his life.
It would have genuinely fascinating to know what he would have ended up doing at Arsenal. But I think it might have been the same problem, to be fair.
Yeah,
I think
he
yeah. And then number 1 most disappointing player, I'll take the lead on this one because it's someone that I was so excited about, not only when we signed him, but at the start of this season as well, back from injury, is Nkunku. He's... you had that moment, didn't you, earlier in the season when he scored a couple of goals in the Conference League and then came on, was it half time at Bournemouth and scored
I mean,
a really important goal, the winning goal. I think it must
like,
come on a bit later
late.
actually because Sancho came in half time. Yeah, really late goal, brilliant finish. And I remember he didn't then start the next game, which was West Ham away, and then Jackson scored two, and was very good. And then he never really got in the team properly. He played at Southampton away and then come back out again when we went to Spurs. He never felt like he was in it, but you always thought there is a player there. And then whatever happened, maybe he wanted to get out at January, it didn't happen. But from that point onwards, I don't remember quite as clearly looking at a Chelsea player who's lost interest as much as Nkunku had. And it made you quite angry actually and really disappointed in him. And it kind of, we'll never probably hear the full story, but the fact that he wasn't even involved in the squads at the end of the season and there was a talk of an injury, but was it a real injury? And then in the Conference League final, he didn't even come on the pitch. Mark Gui does, and just such a shame. And he will not play another game for Chelsea.
Well, I mean, you pretty much said it all. I'm not going to rain on your parade there. But what I would say is, if he does go to, say, Man United, Tottenham, I don't think he might go to United. I don't go to Spurs. If he goes to one of those teams and bangs in 30 goals next season, you can safely say that he didn't try a leg for Chelsea. He absolutely lost interest there. I don't know. There's clearly something had happened. You make a good point now. Had the goal he scored against Bournemouth, that would have been the perfect opportunity to say the team was awful that day. You could have subbed. No one can stake a claim to say they usually start the next game. He was the only one. He'd come on and made a difference. Sancho as well had a very good game when he came on and stuff that day. He got man of the match, I think, Sancho. And the fact that Nkunku didn't start maybe was the sort of the sign in his mind that I'm not going to get into this team. Like, again, not that's confidence, but his mentality would have been just like, I'm not fancied here at all. And obviously Palmer does play his position, which he would like to do.
Yeah.
They take up the same spaces. I think you're right. It's just a humongous, 50 million quid, and he's done nothing for Chelsea. And he's going to leave under a cloud, sadly, but there we go.
Yeah. I hope he goes abroad because there is obviously a player there, and I just wouldn't really love to see him at a Spurs because if someone gets him right, we're gonna be made to look silly. Hey, it's Chris here with a really quick message. Check us out on Instagram at 1905 Podcast. You'll find video clips, photos, and much more about everything we discuss on the show. Plus, it's a great way to get in touch, to tell us your thoughts, share your feedback, or just say hi. Follow us on Instagram at 1905 Podcast. And now, back to the show. Final category, goal of the season. Number 3, I like to take a free kick in my time, and Cole Palmer's free kick against Brighton was one of the best that I have seen at Chelsea. Absolutely unbelievable. About 35 yards out, top corner. One of his 4 goals that day, just unreal. Absolutely unreal. Joe, unless you've got anything to add on that, I'll let you go to number 2, which is Jackson against Newcastle.
Well, I said that the Palmer one is just a genius of work that day. 4 goals in the first half was just unplayable. Guy's a magician. Sorry, Nicholas Jackson, just a brilliant. The finish is fairly standard, you could argue, but all the build-up play, that Palmer when he received the ball off the back 4, and the turn swivel and the pass to Neto, just unbelievable, unreal. He takes one touch past the fullback and a good cross for Jackson who finishes it off. I mean, but to go from our penalty area to goal inside, 5 seconds or something stupid, incredible. I mean, just a brilliant goal. Palmer again at his best. Neto at his best as well, showing what he can do with his pace, given space to run into as well. Because Chelsea play a lot of the time, they get tied up in those wide positions. We come all the time, but to have a free bit of grass to stretch his legs, it was just an outstanding goal. I think you said earlier on, Chris, that it made the match of the day list. So it must have been fairly decent.
Yeah, that's a great shout. And then goal of the season, we've already talked about it quite a bit. I think it gets talked about because of the importance of the goal, but you mentioned it briefly there, Jay. The quality of the goal when you watch it back, I don't even remember noticing at the time, but when you watched it back on social media and stuff after, so many passes, virtually every player touched the ball. but it was that Pedro Neto goal at Fulham. Amazing move, amazing finish and swivel on the turn, and obviously the importance of the goal, which we've talked about as well. But it's it's stand out for all of those reasons of not just being a great goal, but just being so important as well.
Unbelievable. Just a brilliant goal all round. We spoke about it earlier on. I won't go into it anymore. Just incredible goal from Chelsea.
Yeah, more of those, please, Pedro. Okay, so yeah, that's our review of the season. Love to know your thoughts. What would you change in those categories? Let us know via email, which is hello@1905podcast.com, or by Instagram. And Joe?
I've just got one that I wanted to put in, but it didn't really make, the concept wasn't there. The Cole Palmer lob against Wolves away, I thought was special. The Sanchez boot to Jackson and the chip lob was outrageous. You went potty, I remember at that time, saying that you missed it, been away, and he came. That one for me that I wanted to put in there, but we only had a top 3, so there we go.
We will be back soon to talk more about transfer business, the World Club Cup, and everything else Chelsea. See you soon.
Those were the Chelsea notes for this week. If you enjoyed the podcast, do us a favour and share it with a fellow Blue. And we'd love to hear your thoughts, so leave us a review wherever you're listening. Wherever you may be, stay carefree, and remember, every little thing's gonna be all right.